Hey Alpha fam, let's do a quick market update. Before I begin, I do want to say that nothing in these videos is financial advice. Everything is for educational purposes only. This is just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to this channel, if you could please like, comment, and subscribe. We really do appreciate all of the support. Let's get into the market, guys. So, we just had unemployment data come out just a couple seconds ago. You can see it here. Came out a little bit not significantly lower than what was expected, but definitely lower than projected. We do see that the unemployment rate is lowering, which is generally a good thing, but it's also, we're kind of in, I call it the twilight zone, where actually good economic data is actually bad for the markets because the markets want rate cuts. But I don't think that this is something that's going to, dictate whether they continue to cut rates this year. We're already now holding our breath for rate cuts in the next couple of weeks on the 28th. It's just on poly market. We got a 94% chance of no change. We're not expecting a rate cut, guys. The market's not expecting a rate cut. Now, I'll tell you this. If Jerome Powell goes out there and decides to lower rates and cut rates, you're definitely going to see a huge reaction from the market because it's not being priced in yet. What we have seen and what I think is occurring is yesterday they decided, and this is where I think we started seeing this little bit of de-risking. If I come over here on the 15-minute chart, is there was two things that happened. First, there was supposed to be the Supreme Court decision for Trump. The reason I think we've seen the initial push was because I think it was leaked early that they were not going to be actually making the decision, so the market reacted. But then we started getting a little bit more of a push down and a cool off right here because they closed the Iran airspace last night. And this is a general rule of thumb, guys. If you want to monitor this stuff, you can actually monitor the planes, going around and doing all the flying for commercial. And you can tell if there's going to be like a economic or not economic, geopolitical, or like a war or an attack or like something negative that's going to happen to a country, like America bombing Iran. They will start basically clearing the airspace over that country that's being targeted. And there was a notice that the airspace around Iran was being they were clearing it, but then Trump apparently made a comment that he called it off the last minute. So something to keep in the back of our mind, guys. I've said it before. I don't think a one-time attack on Iran would bring the market down. I do think what it would do is it would cause an initial reaction and a wick, and it would allow market makers to liquidate longs. But I think it would be quickly recovered. Depending on how gravest the attack was. We already know that Iran's currency is pretty much gone to zero at this point. They're having significant problems. I think they're going to be I think there's going to be a regime change eventually. But regardless, that didn't happen, so the market's starting to move up. I think we're going to get a continuation, guys. I really do. I mean, we're in a near, and I'm saying this because there's a couple things that need to happen. One, we need to reclaim the 50-day. And we're literally right there. Like, we're not far away from it at all, guys. We've already retapped it and then pushed down. This looks pretty good. If we can reclaim this 50-day on the weekly and start above next week, this is going to look good for a trend continuation. And then we also want to be cognitive because we also know when these oscillators start getting a little overwhelmed. And what I mean by that is things like this RSI. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So you see this RSI is already at 69. All right. It's way, 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 way up there. All right. And let's say today we get another green day. And let's say this pushes us up to the $100,000 level. All right. And let's say after this $100,000 level, this oscillator is probably going to close above the 70. Expect a couple day cool down where we could potentially see us cool down for a couple days before the next move up happens. And then this would allow the 50-day to curl up and become used as support. Let me show you guys something. You notice when we started the downtrend and we broke below the 50-day right here, and we actually broke below it. You see how we did this bearish retest and then we came back down? Guess what happened next? We had to do another bearish retest. This is kind of the confirmation that we're in a downtrend at this point, all right? And then you can see every time we come up to it, reject, reject. Same thing happens in an uptrend, guys. So when we go in an uptrend, you can see we've kind of already done like a bullish retest a little bit where we kind of deviated under. But as this thing comes up, the 50-day is going to curl up and this market structure is going to come up and have to come back down and retest it as support. All right. This is key in identifying that we've actually broken out of the accumulation range and we have left and out of the Wyckoff accumulation and have gone from there. We've broken resistance and now we are in the confirmed uptrend. And then you can see when this type of stuff happens, like look at over here, the 50, like when we cracked above it, you can see we were using as like we went up, we cooled down into the 50, not quite all the way there, but you can see retest, retest, and then these also lead to the next moves up. Even right here, retest. This is the confirmed uptrend. And this is what we want to see now that we are starting our confirmed uptrend. All right. So I want to look at a couple of other things. This is total market cap. All right. This is the entire crypto industry sitting at 3.25 trillion. All right. It has and is creating something pretty interesting. All right. I think this move has caught a lot of people off guard, and I'm going to go over a couple of other things. But one thing I do want to see, this level right here is of massive significance. All right. You can see when we wick down on October 10th, this is where we bounce from. This is where we bounce from. And if I bring it down just a little bit, this is also the resistance zone. So prior support turned into future resistance. Now we're in there trying to get above it, and I think we do. As we crack above this level, guys, we need to be watching things very closely. I do think that we're going to see a continuation, and I think this move is catching a lot of people off guard, and I'll explain why. So I like to look when these rallies start, what's driving it. Is it spot or is it leverage? If it's leverage, I get worried. The reason why is because I know those market makers are going to come sweep that liquidity. They're going to come get it. All right. Now, when it's spot, you can't liquidate a spot buyer. They own the asset out. It's their assets. They own it. So there's nothing that nobody can do about taking that asset from them. So when you see spot-driven rallies, they usually are sustainable and last longer than a liquidity leverage grab. All right? Keep that in the back of your mind, guys. Now let's look at altcoins. These are your pure T alts. This is removing everything. This is Bitcoin and Ethereum and stablecoins being completely removed. These are your alts. This is also showing me something interesting. It's showing me that this prior resistance zone has now become support. All right. We are obviously finding two levels of resistance right here. We need to get above this level right here. You can see we've rejected from it twice, but I think we do. And this also, again, guys, these allow these lower time frame oscillators. A couple of red days is actually not a bad thing because these RSIs and the stochastics, they need a chance to be able to come back down and reset on the smaller time frames and even on the daily. All right. Just always remember that, guys. You got to keep that in the back of your mind. All right. Now let's look at TradFi markets. Look extremely good. Like it was crazy. Like this thing dumped really hard yesterday, guys. And look what happened to it. It literally dumped when the U.S. Open happened, or actually this happened last night, and then for the yesterday for the U.S. market and all that. And it was crazy because when the stock market was dumping, crypto was pumping. Like it was pumping, guys. It's crazy. We don't usually see that decorrelation, but now we can see that it is pushing up very aggressive again. You have futures pushing up very aggressive. You guys know me. I always say it. To me, is a good indication on where I think the direction of the market's going to go is based upon futures. If futures is pumping in green, typically the stock market will open up and follow suit. There's been obviously some times that doesn't work out, but for the most part, this is usually a good sign that we'll see a continuation for the day, and it looks pretty good. I mean, if you look at the daily on both of these things, guys, I mean, you know, I would like to see, and I've called it months ago. I said S&P 500 is hitting 7,000 points. I just knew it. It just was this psychological number that I figured it was going to get hit. Now, looking at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, looks very good. You see it's broken out, done a retest, pushing back up, looks fantastic. Even Bitcoin dominance has gone a little bit higher than I like, but it's in a general area where it always rejects. And it on the weekly, guys, nothing but a bearish retest. Nothing but a bearish retest. Looks perfectly fine. Looking at USDT dominance, looks really good. We're well above the 50. Obviously, we need to get this thing. I want to see this thing get lower. All right. I want to see this thing break down out of this zone that it's been finding support in, but I think it does. I think it will. Looking at it on the 4-hour, you can see this thing is in a confirmed downtrend, guys. Expect that, you know, when we get these days of cool-offs in the market. So these are the days that, Bitcoin retraces and comes down and, retests some of those lower levels. This is going to allow USDT dominance to retest the 50-day EMA on a bearish retest. So as we're doing bullish retest, we want USDT dominance to be doing the exact opposite. We want it to do bearish. We want it to do bearish retest, and I think that we're going to generally continue to see this, guys. We've been waiting for this for a while, guys. We have been talking about quantitative easing. We've been talking about the effects in the market. We've been talking about the ISM and how we've been waiting for it to expand over 50. We've been talking about all of this for a long time. There was also something else that was interesting that happened yesterday. So the Clarity Act, so there's the Genius Act and the Clarity Act are the two bills that are being passed. They were supposed to get passed yesterday, and the CEO of Coinbase decided to pull out support, so they canceled it. And there was a few reasons why, and if anybody wants to look it up, you can read his tweet on there. But apparently it was like there were some amendments that they needed to be made, and that they were like, no bill is better than this bill. So it delayed things for a little while, but I think that this will be something that gets passed here relatively soon. With that being said, guys, waiting for the U.S. market to open. I think things look generally pretty bullish right now. If I come into some of the smaller time frames just to give you an idea, if I think trend continuation, this thing does look like it's trying to make a bull flag right here, guys. It's been basically flagging this entire time up. You guys can see it. Here's one right here, and it did something very similar right here. And then this is what broke it up into this level. All right. And it's doing something very similar. And this is what I look for trend continuations, to look and seeing if it's making like rollover patterns, or do we look like we're going to get bullish continuation. And things look pretty good right now. I guess anything can always happen, guys, but for the most part, I think that crypto has been the largest catch-up trade, and it's just now starting to come to fruition. I've said it and said it and said it. Everything else has to go first. Crypto is always the last. And you guys want to see something that's even crazier? Look at silver. Dumping very hard. All right. I don't know why. We just all of a sudden dumped. It would be very, very great for both silver and gold to unwind a little bit. Cool off. Time for you guys to come back down. Retest some key support areas. Make these people that have become so bullish on metals, scare them a little bit and making them think it's all over. And then, continue on with your guys' pump if you want to. But this would also allow the liquidity to come back into things like risk on assets. And I think we're seeing the general rotation, guys. Crypto is the number one catch-up trade. It's the number one emerging market. It's the future of finance. It is the number one emerging market. It is going, if you don't think crypto is about to catch a bid, I don't know what to tell you guys. It's a liquidity sponge. It's literally upgrading the entire financial rail payment system, along with bringing everything on chain. It's definitely not going anywhere. And again, it's the number one catch-up trade. With that being said, guys, keep your notifications on. I'm going to keep you guys updated. Also, if you're new to this channel and this is the first time you've ever been here, we really do appreciate you watching. If you can please give us a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you're looking to understand this, if you're looking to understand what crypto is, if you want to understand and learn macroeconomics, fundamentals, technical analysis, if you want a place that you can, network with other entrepreneurs, develop businesses, we have a place. All right. You can click the link below and we'll see you inside.